Let's go, Auburn fans. What are you doing? It is time to come to your senses and end the Deep South Oldest Rivalry versus Georgia. Comment down below, Auburn fans, if you believe you should play Georgia every year, because right now a big discussion topic is, well, who are your three permanent rivals going to be, as the SEC will welcome in Texas and Oklahoma for the 2024 season. It looks as if the SEC is moving towards a 9-game conference schedule, and for those that don't know, in the 9-game conference schedule, you will have 3 teams that you play each and every season. And the most common 3 opponents for Auburn includes Alabama and Georgia. And there's a lot of reasons as to why those 2 teams are included. And a big reason why is because of the history of the rivalry of those schools. But today, I'm going to tell Auburn fans, and feel free to correct me in the comment section, this is a perfect time for you to hit the reset button and not have to play Alabama and Georgia every single year. Because when it comes to fairness, there is no reason that one team should play the clear-cut 2 best recruiters and the clear-cut 2 most successful programs over the past few decades. Now, first things first, I understand the history, and there are a lot of different stories about the Auburn and Georgia game. Most notably, the Hail Mary, obviously, the prayer in Jordan Hare, or Jordan, am I saying it right? Jordan? That game will always be in the minds of many. And then, of course, going back to the 50s, not too up on 50s knowledge, but a quick Google search will tell you the story of Pat Dye of Georgia beating Auburn, and then, of course, Pat Dye becoming the head coach, a very successful head coach at Auburn University. Now, what does all of this actually mean? Well, it's simple. Auburn playing Georgia every year has been essentially a destiny for Auburn, and Hugh Freeze and the Tigers can be as confident as they are. I know they're really excited to have Cadillac Williams still stay on staff, and look, Auburn's done a lot of really good things since Hugh Freeze has been there, but the truth is, in college football, more often than not, you are what your schedule says you are, and it is completely unfair to Auburn that their 3 permanent opponents include the 2 best teams in the conference. And there wouldn't be anybody out there, including me, an LSU fan, that would say that LSU is better than Georgia or Alabama, at least for now. So, if I'm an Auburn fan, I understand that, yes, the Deep South Oldest Rivalry, you grew up watching that game, and it is the most played game in the SEC, and it's the longest tenured game in the SEC, and I think it's the longest. I think they've played each other more than any other team, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to Power 5 teams. Someone please correct me on that. But the truth is, we live in the now, and historically speaking, Auburn versus Georgia has not really been that competitive of a game. Bah! Looking at you, yes, you, right now. Please subscribe. There's 1,000 different ways you can help support the Power Hour SEC movement with a super thanks. And obviously, ring the bell. Pretty soon, we're going to be doing more live streams, so we hope to see you there. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to really answer and think about this one just for a second. Since 2007, where Nick Saban became the Alabama head coach, who has Auburn beaten more? If you're watching this on a premiere, type A for Alabama or type G for Georgia. If you're just watching this wherever, just give it your absolute best guess. And before I reveal that answer, the reason why I picked 2007, not to just pick some arbitrary year, that was the first year of Nick Saban being the head coach at Alabama, which, of course, turned into the most dominant run in college football history. And if your answer was Georgia, you would be correct. It is true that since 2007, Auburn has beaten Alabama 5 times, where, I was very shocked when I looked this up. They've only beaten Georgia 3 times since 2007. Now, think about all the times that those two teams have played since then, and also keep in mind that Auburn also play Georgia in an SEC championship game setting. It's crazy to think that Auburn has beaten Alabama 2 more times than they've actually beaten Georgia. So, what does that tell you? Even without Kirby Smart being there, Auburn versus Georgia has been more lopsided than the actual freaking Iron Bowl. Now, there could be some of you Auburn fans that say, look, I'd rather keep Georgia instead of Alabama. I doubt any of you actually exist. And I know a majority of you aren't going to like this video, and they're going to say, hey, I want to keep Georgia on the schedule. We are Auburn. We do not shy away from competition. And that is a very noble thing. And if you are that way, I totally get it. Rivalries are what make the SEC great. But really ask yourself, how big of an annual matchup has this been? And the answer isn't as big as you think, right? For real, think of how many legendary matchups that these two teams have had. And the answer is probably not as many as you think. It's not just the fact that, Georgia has beaten Auburn. It's just a lot of these games really haven't been competitive either. So I understand the history of it, but if I'm Auburn, if I'm a rational Auburn fan, I would say, look, all these other SEC teams are going to have a far better draw than us. And it doesn't even matter who that third team will be. Obviously, if it's Vanderbilt, that would make you feel a lot better if you're an Auburn fan. But whoever that third team will be, it doesn't matter because the other two are games that are just so much tougher than what everyone else has to play. Now, there are going to be other schools that have Alabama and Georgia as permanent opponents, but they are definitely not going to have both. And if you're an Auburn fan, I'm telling you right now, you do not want to play these two teams every single year because in a college football schedule, guess what? You can survive one loss, right, and still make the playoff. And as the playoff stretches out, you could also survive 2 losses in a 12-team format that we are about to have. But you definitely can't survive a third. And the margin of error is going to be so thin if you have to play those two teams every year and 7 more SEC teams. Remember, you're still going to have to play LSU. You're still going to have to play Texas A&M. You're still going to have to play all these SEC teams either one year or the other, and that is not what you want. So if I'm an Auburn fan, obviously the Iron Bowl isn't going to go anywhere. I would seriously consider taking Georgia off the schedule, or at least advocating for that. I know a lot of you aren't going to say it, but that is perfectly fine with me. So, look, I've done a video a few weeks ago that Kirby Smart is currently the best coach in the sport. He just got off, to me, the best coached run for a college football playoff since we've had the format since 2014, leading Georgia to an undefeated record with everything that they lost. Lets you know that Georgia is truly being coached right now by a special gentleman. Now, I know they recruit better than almost everyone not named Alabama. That plays a big role, and we're going to see how they look in the post-Todd Monken and post-Stetson Bennett era. But, man, I still think they're going to continue to roll teams. So, if you think that Georgia's going to just fall off here, you are very much mistaken. And Nick Saban is hungrier than ever to run the table and actually join Georgia and LSU as a 15-0 national champion. I know the 2020 team was undefeated, but I think Saban wants a 15-0 season. I don't think they're slowing down anytime soon. So, look, if you're an Auburn fan and you say, hey, I don't want to lose these 2 annual games, be my guest. You go right on ahead. But there are a lot of other games that you play each and every year that do move the needle. The truth is, with Alabama, you want to put 2 more winnable games in that final slot. So let me know what you guys think down below. It is Power Hour SEC. Bah! Oh boy, I think the comments are going to be so much fun on this one. And tonight, we are doing lemon pepper chicken wings. Let's go.